When the ego fades, what remains is a pure connection to the divine, which transcends form and name. The formless reality is beyond all religions. It belongs to no one and yet is present in everything. While people may offer devotion to a specific form or name, this is only a starting point. Devotion to form eventually leads to a deeper understanding of the formless, of pure consciousness. In this journey, the ego is laid down at the feet of the divine. Over time, the individual realizes that there is no separation between the self and the divine. The ego creates the illusion of separation, but in truth everything is one. With devotion, respect and attention focused on pure awareness, the individual dissolves into the vast ocean of consciousness, much like a river that flows into the sea and loses its separate identity. Once merged, there is no return, and the realization dawns that the true self is present everywhere and in everything. When the ego governs perception, it creates the illusion that individuals are separate from one another, resulting in conflict and division. However, once the true self is recognized within, it becomes impossible to view others through the lens of ego. Instead, the same essence is seen in every being and object. This shift in perception leads to a deep sense of unity and connection with all of existence. The separateness once imposed by the ego fades, revealing that all beings are interconnected through the same underlying consciousness. This realization brings about a profound transformation in how one interacts with the world. Conflicts and judgments fall away, replaced by compassion and understanding. The ego-driven sense of superiority or inferiority dissolves, making way for a recognition of the self in every other being. At this stage, the body-mind complex is understood to be merely a temporary vehicle, a tool for experiencing and learning, but not the true essence of what we are. The body is a temporary home for the soul, a vessel that eventually returns to the earth. One has no control over when the body is acquired, nor over when it will be left behind. Despite this, much of life is spent in trying to exert control over circumstances, clinging to choices and resisting the natural flow of life. In reality, the beginning and the end are beyond individual control, so why not let go of the illusion of choice and live in acceptance of what is? Rather than getting caught up in noise, restlessness, and the constant pursuit of desires, one can learn to embrace the present moment. Life's struggles arise when we resist what is, when we seek to impose our will on the inevitable. True freedom comes from releasing the need for control and accepting that there is a higher power guiding the course of life. The experiences of life, even the most difficult ones, can be transformed into opportunities for growth and wisdom. Suffering, while painful, often carries within it the seeds of enlightenment. It offers the chance to see beyond the superficial concerns of the ego and recognize the deeper truths that lie beneath the surface. How we choose to respond to suffering determines whether it becomes a source of wisdom or a source of further entanglement in worldly concerns. The journey of self-realization begins with faith in one's own inner self. Approaching this inner journey with love, devotion, and humility is essential. The true self is pure awareness, uninvolved in the drama of life. When one remains as this uninvolved awareness, the body and mind function as if on autopilot, guided by an unknown force. There is no need for a sense of doership, as actions flow naturally, without attachment to the outcome. As this awareness deepens, it becomes clear that the body is not the true self. The body depends on the self for its energy and existence. but the self remains eternal and untouched by the changes of the physical world. The mind, too, is dependent on the self, but it is not the source of the self's identity. The true self is the origin of all energy, the source from which all experiences arise. By letting go of attachment to the body-mind complex and the ego's desires, one can begin to experience the bliss of true emptiness. This emptiness is not a void, but a state of fullness, where the self is no longer burdened by the distractions of the material world. In this state, the individual becomes like an empty vessel open to being filled with divine bliss. The true self is self-sustaining and needs no external support. In contrast, the body and mind rely on the energy of the self for their existence. Realizing this brings about a profound shift in perspective. Rather than clinging to the body or mind for security, one can rest in the knowledge that the self is eternal and unchanging. When this understanding is fully integrated, life is no longer a struggle. The drama of the world continues, but the individual is no longer entangled in it. Actions happen naturally, without the interference of the ego. There is no longer a need for validation, success, or recognition, as the self is complete in itself. The ultimate purpose of the body-mind complex is to guide the individual back to the source, to the realization of the true self. All other purposes are temporary and part of the world's play. When one becomes aware of this, it becomes easier to navigate life without getting caught up in its distractions. The focus shifts from external achievements to inner realization. The journey of self-realization is like a river flowing towards the ocean. The river may have its twists and turns, but ultimately it merges with the ocean and loses its separate identity. Once this union occurs, there is no going back. The self recognizes itself in everything, and the illusion of separation dissolves completely. This awareness transforms relationships and interactions with the world. Love, compassion, and unity replace the old patterns of division and conflict. The self sees itself reflected in every part of creation, and this realization brings about a profound sense of peace and fulfillment. The journey to self-realization is a process of awakening to the true self, the pure awareness that underlies all of existence. By turning inward and conserving the energy once wasted on external indulgence, one can embark on a path of devotion, faith, and humility. The ego's illusions of separation and control fall away, revealing the eternal self that is present in everything. In the end, the body and mind are just temporary tools for this realization. The real purpose of life is to return to the source, to the ocean of consciousness from which we came. This journey is not one of renunciation, but of transformation, where the self recognizes its true nature and dissolves into the bliss of pure awareness.